Hey everybody, John Spiokla here. We've got a full house for the Gen AI news briefing, reading your news, essential, important, or optional to save you, the AI leader, time and hopefully create benefits. So we have Tim, we have Paul, we have Luda, we have David, and Ankash today. And I am John Ankash. We've got a whole panoply of interesting stuff from some new models, some domestic, some from China, as well as some announcements in the investing side. BlackRock is catching up to the market. All right, Akash, why don't you start us off with the first one, please?
Sure, John. So the first one that we have for today comes from Nvidia, and this is about a new open frontier class multimodal LLM called NVLM.
Yeah, very interesting here. Claiming, way better performance across different modalities, which a lot of people are going to. David, what'd you think of this one?
Yeah, so Nvidia is dropping, I believe it's 3 different models. They're different, slightly different architectures for each of them. As you mentioned, they're multimodal. They will be open sourcing the weights and the code, although they haven't just yet, but they said that they're working on it. And if you flip to the benchmarks, I'm not sure if you could do that. Kind of open up the PDF, and there's some benchmarks in there. We know that
in the underlying, you're talking about in the underlying paper.
In the underlying paper, yes.
Yeah.
They're competitive with the frontier models, including the closed source ones like OpenAI's.
Yep.
It's important. I think Essential might be pushing it too far until we kind of get a little more information, are able to kind of see the model in action. But it's open source, and we know that a lot of the clients that we're talking to are starting to look more into those models, and this one seems like it's a pretty good one. So I would go important on this one.
Yeah, 72 billion. It seems to be performing well against the larger models as well. You look at Llama 405. It's pretty competitive with that. I think these are the benchmarks we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yes, and its ability to go multimodal, as you can see, across different kinds. This is from the PDF underneath the article. So, what do other folks think? David's making the case for important here.
You're on mute, Luda. I think you're talking.
I can go with important. It's a product announcement. So we tend to be skeptical. I tend to be very skeptical of product announcements. I'm skeptical of benchmarks. The examples they used were pretty impressive. And they know what they're talking about. I looked a little bit at the research paper. I didn't have time to read the whole thing carefully, but I looked in the background. So they know what they're doing, and they're using a couple of different techniques here that seem to work well. And in particular, they've got a curated data set. Again, back to the data issue, which I think is going to become more and more prevalent for making smaller models more effective.
Now that I didn't see if they were
important, as you say, is read it when you have time, but don't stress over it. So I can go with that kind of reading.
Very technical paper. I mean, you really want to dig into stuff if you want to read the paper, but I didn't see that they were open sourcing the data set. I don't think they are, but
I don't think they are either. Right. I think that is the new crown jewels. If people are going to stop, they're not going to let you have it, because that is the differentiator.
Yeah, I would support important. I really like the Nvidia really committing to providing the state-of-the-art models. What I liked about this is they've analyzed what was wrong in the multimodality of the other models, and they attempt to go fix that with specific techniques, one step at a time. So they did a good job explaining what they did, and that's why the models are performing better, I believe. So it's probably close to essential when it's real, but at the moment, I agree, it's important.
And Luda, when you're talking about fixing some things wrong with other models, are you talking about how they say that other multimodal models, because they're using, they're making them capable on images, they then start to kind of lose some of their fidelity for text to text, but this one they seem to have. So, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, I support really important. I was leaning toward maybe essential, but I could live with important. I mean, I think to me, one of the really coolest things is, well, really two things together. One is this notion of, hey, it's data sets and it's variety, which when you think about statistics, that's what statistics are, right? If you're doing something simple like linear regression, if it's a big effect, you don't need many instances, right? And so variety plus quality makes sense to me, that the model learns faster, just intuitively when you think about it. The other thing is that this notion of this new not new, but the NVLM approach, which I think stands for neural vision language model. The notion of doing the combo and taking the best of other techniques and putting them together, and the kind of performance you get. Anyway, I thought it was very interesting. Okay, important it is. Archives next.
Next one that we have comes from Runway. So Runway has signed a deal with Lionsgate in a team up for AI provider and a major movie studio.
All right. Can I just like do a little pat ourselves on the back here? All right. We said roughly a year ago in our wins article, words, images, numbers, and sounds, we said those businesses that are in the crucible, that is high wins, high digital, are going to have their model completely reconfigured, their economic model completely reconfigured in 3 to 5 years. Here we are a year in, major studio, major model. I absolutely believe in that prediction. Maybe I think 3 to 5 years will be when the industry really gets, ripped apart by the new organizations or the transformed existing ones. But anyway, I just want to pat ourselves on the back that our prediction seems to be coming true here. What do folks think? Let's see. Who did we have on point for this bad boy? It was just a second. Paul.
Yeah, absolutely essential. I mean, we had 6 months strike was a real strike in this industry because of this technology. We didn't have it in other industries here. Second is that this is their training on the 20,000 movies. So this is people with proprietary content moving to one model to train on it. So we've seen in the kind of text world, people running out of content to train. And third, we've already seen the impact of Sora with Tyler Perry's halting an $800 million movie expansion in Atlanta here. So this industry is absolutely in the crucible, John. And I think it's like the gaming industry. AI leaders need to watch what's going on in these industries under tremendous turmoil to understand the waves of change coming to their industry. So essential.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just want to add here. I think a lot of people make the mistake when they read Clay Christensen's work about, the disruptor is going to take over my industry. That's true over time, but there's two kinds of disruption. There's financial disruption, and then there's operational disruption. So what I mean by that is that if you look at when does the market realize your model is the old model and the new model is going to win? That can happen as soon as 5 or 6 years into a business. So if you look historically, the cost of a taxi license in New York City peaked at about $1.2 million to $1.3 million each. Peaked at 5 years after Uber was in business, and they had already deployed to New York, and still the taxi value was that high. So in the 6th year, they went from 1.2 million down to $35,000, and then have recovered to about $200,000 now. That's what I mean by financial disruption. There's still New York taxis and so forth. Macy's, God rest its soul, is still a walking zombie, right? But financial disruption happens way before operational disruption. And that's what we're talking about in the 3 to 5 year time frame. Just like Tyler Perry wouldn't put any more money down, nobody's going to put money in an old style studio anymore.
And John, if we go keep moving in that, everyone now has a TikTok video production movie studio in their hand. So We're going to have even more explosion and creativity on the video side.
Yes, and these folks have these folks now, right, have distribution, and they have, as you say, proprietary data to train on, and they have great talent. So yeah, I'm optimistic.
Yeah, and if anybody questions what we're talking about, I encourage folks to look at some of the videos that people created for Runway's most recent contest. So they put on contests, and they have folks try to create a video within 48 hours. And
Yes.
I've seen a bunch of those, and they are freaking amazing, even today.
Oh, I didn't realize they're out yet. I thought they're coming out shortly. So
yeah, I mean, people who have entered the contest are just posting their own videos. They haven't said
right.
who's won yet.
Gotcha.
But
they haven't picked one yet. I see what you mean. That's great. Yeah.
So let me say that I will go with essential, because I think the bigger point of transformation of any industry is important. And this is a good example where, yes, you can pat yourself on the back for saying this was going to happen. But for the AI leader who's not involved in media, this is not going to have much day-to-day impact on them. So the idea that you better be paying attention in general is an important idea. Runway's doing a deal with Lionsgate is gossip for most people in most industries. It's fine, but it's just not going to affect their next decision.
One man's gossip is another man's evidence.
Yeah. But I do think, Tim, they need to have a point of view. Are they sitting on data that's valuable to the large language models? If I'm an insurance company or
I hear you, and that's why I said I'm not going to make a huge argument, because I do think it's a good piece of evidence that transformation is happening very rapidly. And yes, if you have data assets, you need to be thinking about this hard and right now. Mm-hmm.
All right, essential it is. Ankaj, next.
The next one comes from BlackRock. So BlackRock and Microsoft have planned a $30 billion fund to invest in AI infrastructure.
All right, Larry Fink, he's sitting there saying, did I say DEI? Oh, I meant AI. Sorry. The
inside baseball, but funny for those who are inside. Anyway,
here we have, look, and Microsoft and the Abu Dhabi fund, interesting. Middle East energy now being a big thing here. We saw the announcement by GAI yesterday. What do you think on this one, Tim?
I think it's interesting but optional for our readers. We know that the demand for energy is enormous and infrastructure is enormous. There's a lot of investment going on. They mentioned that Microsoft has already invested $10 billion in another. So if there's anything interesting here, again, it's just, as I like to joke, and I'm a capitalist, but I love what I say about capitalism is great for the people who have the capital. And Microsoft and these folks have so much capital, they just invest in everything. And this is clearly an area that needs some investment, and it's very capital intensive because you have to build fab plants and you have to build power plants, and they're incredibly capital intensive. So it's kind of, duh. And we'll see if it works out. But again, day to day, it might make you feel a little better that, okay, somebody's doing something about the fact that we're going to run out of energy really soon at the rate we're scaling these models, and the price could be out of sight if we're not careful. But beyond that, it's optional for most people.
All right, we have an optional here. Tim, Dave, Luda, Dave, you go with that?
Yeah, no, I'm surprised that the fund isn't bigger, frankly. And also, I just think it's interesting. You remember months ago, we were hearing about Sam Altman running around trying to get funding, something crazy like $1 trillion to fund the data center build outs and such. And there's, they don't have any money to put into this, whereas Microsoft does. And so, they obviously are becoming increasingly competitive, OpenAI and Microsoft. So this is any of these types of areas that require capital investment is where Microsoft is going to kind of jump ahead.
Yeah. You know, I was surprised too, Dave, for the same reason. They do say, look, this is one of the largest, you know, investment units ever raised on Wall Street, which I didn't realize. That it's 30 billion in equity, 170 billion in debt. Anyway, yeah, I mean, these numbers are so crazy, you get used to them. Like, you know, it's that's Luda, you good with optional on this one?
Yeah, I'm good with optional, but reading your article, I was surprised how they have been at it for a while.
Yeah.
So some of those funds started a couple of years ago. So they were putting the money together, and now it came together. But it's that was interesting to me as well.
Yeah. Well, energy demand has been, you know, on the radar for a long time. I mean, we wrote about this in the Future Perfect book that I wrote with Chunka and Paul.
Yeah.
4 years ago, because without generative AI, energy demand is going to double in the next, give or take, in the next 20 or 30 years, just through the growth of developing nations.
Yeah.
And then generative AI just puts this, you know, adds gasoline to the fire.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I have a friend, Nalin Kulikata, out of who's got a company called 9dot. A brilliant guy. He's a professor at BU, anyway, option pricing expert. But his company builds, basically fills in pieces where an energy grid is missing something. So, for example, he's building a football field size battery in Brooklyn, because if you look at the tariffing, it makes they will pay more for local power, and then for a relatively small amount of equity, they're able to get long-term contracts with, you know, folks like ComEd, and then create a vehicle for their investors that is a very nice bond structure with an equity kicker on the top. So it's really I think there's going to be a lot of financial innovation in this, because the beauty as a purchaser of that asset or the purchaser of that bond is you have like a 10, 20, 30-year time window, which the energy distributors are willing to sign for, which is fantastic. Anyway, interesting area. All right, next, optional, Ankash.
Hey, sorry.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yes. So the next one comes from Electronic Arts, and it talks about how EA is embracing Gen AI.
Yes, and good old Theodore Ted McKenzie here does not seem to have any love lost for Electronic Arts. It basically starts out this article: the most hated company in the gaming world says. He didn't quite say that, but it was pretty close. So, Luna, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I rated it as optional. It's a light article, just essentially stating that Electronic Arts is putting AI generative AI at the core of their business, which is, yeah, really not surprising in light of our discussion about the Runway. So they put it in 3 buckets: efficiency, something else I forget. Let me see. Yeah, efficiency, expansion, and transformation. And they have 100+ projects that they're experimenting with. So, you know, kudos to Electronic Arts, but optional.
All righty. I can support optional. Tim, David, we're going to slam this one. Optional. All right.
Yeah.
Ankash, next.
The next one comes from Ginkgo Bioworks, and they have launched a new protein LLM and model API built on Google Cloud technology.
Yeah, I keep wanting to say Ginkgo biloba here.
I was doing that the entire time I was reading this article.
Yeah, we get this little short article here. Interesting, building on Google's technology. What do you think here, Tim?
I think if, you know, again, this is one where if you're in the life sciences, particularly the research part of life sciences, this is certainly important, if not essential. And for everybody else, it's probably optional. It's interesting. Maybe you could make the argument for important in the sense of read it if you have time, because the bigger message here, I mean, it's I hate to say it, yet another protein LLM. But that's great, because this is hugely valuable to designing new drugs and doing drug research. It's not clear how far it goes or exactly what it does. The bigger message is we got special data. We have special sauce. And
Right.
so this is the message. It's starting to become loud and clear. And we'll see if it pans out, because again, that was the argument for smaller focused models. And every time around, OpenAI has performed as well or better than a lot of these smaller focused models. So it's not entirely clear that when this actually, when the theory meets the practice, it will pan out. But their benchmarks are good. And this is a company that's in the business, has a lot of proprietary data. So it's interesting. We'll see.
Yeah.
No, I would put it as important, actually. I toured Ginkgo and was actually amazed at the variety of projects that they did for companies in this space, right? So
They're very well known. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very well known, and they do have a lot of data because they've tried to generate this and that protein for on their own, right, and for customers. So they have a lot of data, and that can boost the whole industry quite dramatically. But I agree for the general, AI executive in other industries, that might not be as important. But it's an announcement that I think will shift the industry forward.
Yeah.
All right, David, where are you on this? O or I?
I mean, Luda made a good argument, but I mean, I think for the everyday leader who's not in this space, I think it's optional. It's an open source version, so that's what kind of made me feel like maybe important. I can't remember how many or if any open source protein generating models exist. Do you guys remember if there are any others?
No, but you reviewed maybe 3, David. That's kind of will be my recollection.
Yeah,
there's lots of them actually, but the ones that are well known are AlphaFold from DeepMind and Rosetta, which is based sort of on AlphaFold out of the University of Washington. Those are the 2 top models that most people know about. But actually, Salesforce created one a long time ago, and a lot of life sciences companies have built their own.
Right, but they're not open source, right? That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I don't think. I think Rosetta is open source.
Okay, yeah, because I'm sure they would have said they were the first open source if they were. These folks are never shy about making their claims. So I'm not going to argue about important, but I would have gone optional.
All right, I'm gonna go.
We can go optional, so that, but no,
important. No.
Well, if you go important, I'm all for it.
All right, let's go important. Important is.
I mean, it's a Boston-based company. The Boston connection maybe puts
absolutely.
And this is industrial. See, the data they have is for that is in use of enterprises generating new therapeutic molecules.
Yep.
So this is and its access is private and it is open source. So that those combination of these 2 and 3 enterprise, that's what made me go important.
All right. Important it is. Next and last, Pankaj.
The last one comes from Alibaba's Quen 2.5. So they have launched a party of foundation models.
Yes, here we have our friends at Alibaba.
Yes.
Putting out these Quinn models in an open source way. I think we've got a little bit of sovereign AI going on here, as well as AI itself. David, what'd you think?
Yeah, I love reading the announcements from these folks. They're chock full of exclamation points and different way of communicating. So as was mentioned, this is a family of models. There's parameter sizes from, I think, 500 million to 72 billion. They've got models that are specializing. There's one that specializes in code. There's one that specializes in math. It hasn't been that long, I feel like, since they released Qwen 2. So I mean, they're moving at quite a clip. It supports, I think it's 29 languages. I mean, it's pretty impressive. Big token window comparable to the frontier models we know. But I'm going to say the same thing I say every time we're seeing frontier Chinese models come out. I can't picture an AI leader choosing this model over others, given concerns with the geopolitical situation. So I think it's great to see that there's innovation happening all over the world, but for the AI leader who's not in China, I'm going to say optional.
All right, we got an optional here. What do you think, Timothy?
I think, yeah, I was between optional and important. And I would echo what David's saying. I think it's going to be hard to get a lot of use of this stuff in the U.S. On the other hand, as the general model of smaller models getting better, here's another example, right? We just see this over and over and over again, that smaller models are getting better. So the interesting thing is, if you put this together with Ethan Mollick's recent article that we reviewed that says scaling still works, you could argue that, wow, this is really going to accelerate things because the smaller models are catching up with the bigger models, and you can scale them much more because they aren't as big yet. So they have, in theory, more scaling runway, which means there's even more room than Ethan was potentially suggesting. So at the grand level of looking at it from overall models, smaller models getting better, and the future's so bright I gotta wear shades, you could argue this could be maybe important. But I think, as David says, for it's not going to affect most AI leaders except those in China or who use Chinese software.
I would go important for a little bit different reason. Look, if these models are available, open source, and and they are competitive in terms of performance and cost, for sure. So it's all about applications, not the models themselves. So what is happening, right? If you step back, there is Middle East with Nvidia, all of those building models in Abu Dhabi and the like. Then there is Chinese and there is US, right? If you really care about your application and then the cost and the velocity of improvement, you might take the Chinese model. If you're in India, and then you will compete not on the model, but on the application in a particular space, right? So I wouldn't discard it that easily, that it wouldn't affect U.S. executives. It will in later on when the applications are built on this model.
Well, I would beg to differ there, because I think a lot of European and U.S. will probably say, if it's got this stuff, it's like YY, right? If it's got this stuff embedded in it, Huawei, whatever it's called, the Chinese chip and telecommunications company that has pretty much,
yeah. No, it's from Alibaba. They may be on Huawei equipment, but
no. But I'm saying the software here may be enough. Not forget about the chips. I'm saying it's analogous to that situation where the U.S. and Europe may just say, if your application contains this stuff, forget about it.
Yeah, it's possible. Plus, I'm just saying that the play is not necessarily on the models, but on the application layer.
Yeah, well, it'll impact the model market because it is competitive. So again, what this does, it's like Meta and these other firms releasing these models. What it does is put pressure on everybody.
Yeah.
And again, this is another thing we've been talking about right from the beginning, is it's not clear this industry will make a lot of money. Probably will, but not entirely clear. But it's clear that there will be lots of benefit. Just may be that the benefit goes to the customers more than the vendors.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to give this an important because of its geopolitical stuff as well as its performance. All right. I was actually leaning toward essential, but I'm not feeling that dictatorial this morning. All right. We're going for Ankash. Give us a top board, please.
Sure, John. Coming right away.
All right. Okay, so we're looking at 1 essential and 3 importance, 2 optionals. All right, everything from investing to capability. Any announcements from our analysts here? All right, thanks everybody. If you like this, please subscribe and like us on YouTube, and see you all tomorrow with the news of the day. Bye-bye.